Next up in the Heat Check Scouting Report series is our second Duke prospect, guard-wing hybrid Kon Knueppel, a 5-star prospect who's been the perfect fit in this talented Blue Devils core this season. Knueppel was a 5-star prospect, ranking number 14 per RSCI, but wasn't necessarily tagged as an easy one and done. Despite that, he started earning buzz in preseason scrimmages at Duke as a standout and has propelled himself to a stellar season with the Blue Devils, averaging 14.4 points, 3.9 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 1 steal per game while shooting 48% overall, 40% from 3 and 91% at the line. He's listed at 6'7", realistically coming in just a bit under that at 6'5" or 6'6", but is about as stout as medium-sized wings come. Here's how Heat Check works. I'm going to identify one draft prospect and grade them on what I believe to be the most generally important skills and aspects of their game: athleticism, scoring, defense, passing and playmaking, and overall feel for the game. After those 5, I'll grade one additional skill relative to that prospect that I think is going to have the biggest effect on their stock. That will be deemed the swing skill. Each skill will be graded on the Heat Check chart with ranges from freezing all the way to scorching. When that's all said and done, I'll divvy out one final overall score. Starting with Knueppel's athleticism, I've gone with cool as this is far and away the most limited aspect of his game and one of a few things I'm worried about in terms of his translation to the pros. As we've covered, Knueppel is bulky and solid as a rock. Despite a lack of elite height or length, his frame is a real positive, as it's not often you get these stocky types as legit perimeter threats. But his true athleticism is certainly lacking, to put it nicely. He's primarily ground-bound, posting just 2 dunks across 38 games with Duke, and just generally looks like he's jumping with ankle weights. His lateral quickness, while better, isn't ideal either, and can be a little hampering in getting him where he wants to go on both offense and defense. But there are a few positives keeping him from a true freezing grade athletically, which is what I'd chalk his pure up, down, and sideways up to. He's immensely physical for his size and archetype, great at absorbing and staying composed through contact, and I think he's got pretty elite body control too, relative to the little hang time he actually gets. Lastly, I think he's got pretty underrated burst as a driver. While he's not speedy, he can get from point A to B with a quickness, likely due to his threat level as a shooter, the issue getting from point B to C, which you'll see in his film. Again, in terms of tools and athleticism, Knueppel is limited, but I think there's some underlying areas that can help bridge the NBA gap. For Knueppel's scoring, I've gone with a hot grade. The surface level stats and film are good, and I think the deep dive shows he's got more juice in this area than many think, maybe even pointing to some potential scoring stardom. For the on-paper rundown, Knueppel has averaged 14.4 points per game for Duke this season, only behind Cooper Flagg, shooting 47% overall, 40% from 3, and 91% from the line. He's been efficient at every level so far, posting a near 64% true shooting on 22% usage. Knueppel would be best described as a sharpshooting floor spacer, though he's much more versatile than that at a deeper glance. He scored essentially 50% of his total points on jumpers, doing so at a great 40% rate. He scored 32% of his total points spotting up, hitting on a whopping 53% of those for an effective field goal percentage of 70. His point per shot rating in these situations was a 1.4, and if you don't know what any of these numbers mean, just know that when you get Knueppel a solid look on the perimeter, good things tend to happen. He's a marksman catching and shooting, hitting on 44% of unguarded shots there and 41% of guarded. While I think the intricacy of his shot variety could stand to get better on the perimeter, it's certainly nothing to worry about. He's highly composed when shooting, doing so on the move fairly often. He can come off screens, bang it in transition, use little micro moves to get space. He's got a compact shot form with a high release that he can fire off quickly if needed, and it falls true enough to offer little worries about the NBA translation of this area. All this to say, I think he is set to be a potent off-ball scorer for the long haul. The other primary aspect of his scoring game is his effectiveness as a ball handler and in turn his rim pressure. Despite the previously mentioned athletic limitations, Knueppel has shown some serious on-ball juice with the Blue Devils. He's got that sneaky burst, a simple but effective handle, one that he can really bounce around and navigate the floor with. He's got a great sense of pace, able to keep defenders on his hip with his bulky frame, And most importantly, he plays with this unshakable physicality to his driving game. So often, perimeter scorers lull defenders to sleep with the threat of the three-point shot, but can be a little too spindly or movable to cut to the ring with real consistency. With his stocky build, Knueppel has really zero issue with this, not getting knocked off his spots easily, more so absorbing contact and reacting to it with poise. And his at-rim numbers showed the same as the eye test. He shot 62% around the ring for a very good rating per synergy. Knueppel's at his best touching the paint in transition, but he's also got this dash of a pick and roll game too, having run 76 possessions for Duke as the handler for an average grade in synergy. Him and Kon Knueppel have been spamming it plenty recently in the Blue Devils March Madness run, and it has been highly effective. When you package all of this together, a crystal clean jumper, ball handling, some pick and roll prowess, better than expected finishing, savviness navigating the floor, you come out on the other side with a really role fluid and versatile scorer. Is he likely best suited as an off-ball 2-guard? Sure, but does he have enough on-ball prowess to handle the ball and run offensive actions? Yes. Could he size up in moderation as a stocky, albeit undersized 3 that thrives with physicality? I think so. Knueppel has more tools to work with than your average shooter, and I think that will continue to hold true as we jump into the next few categories. This is likely where I'll begin to break away some from the consensus on Knueppel, grading his defense as warm and a good solid average, which I certainly think he can be in the NBA. Theoretically, Kon's limited athletic tools here, poor verticality and lateral quickness, would leave him dead in the water on defense, and while he's certainly not perfect, his feel, awareness, and feistiness help to make him, in my mind, vastly underrated. If there were a defensive liability line, I think Knueppel's well above it, posting a steal per game and solid on and off ball metrics, including a defensive box plus minus of 4. There's little film out there where Kon isn't engaged, attentive, and most importantly, trying his ass off. Off the ball, he's hyper aware of his surroundings, innately sensing where the ball's moving and where to be. He's opportunistic in trying to garner steals, swiping with good hands and timing up double teams with precision. On the ball, there's some work to be done, but he's a scrapper. He's got great footwork despite the speed concerns. He's handsy, maintains that physicality, and most importantly seems to have a keen awareness of where the offense wants to go and what it wants to do, despite his athletic limitations not always allowing him to keep pace. The fear with Knueppel, as with any offensive-minded guard or wing, is that the NBA is set to throw ball screen after ball screen at you till the end of time. And navigating through screens will present the biggest challenge for Knueppel, as his slower foot speed can certainly rear its head here. But in watching the defensive tape, I simply don't see the same concerns with Knueppel as I do others, full stop. I think he's set to be a defensive wash in the NBA, maybe not out the gate, but down the line, with a moderate share of both high and low moments. For Knueppel's passing and playmaking, I've gone with hot. This is one of the more intriguing areas of his overall game to me, and something that sets him apart from ranged shooters of drafts past. Across 38 games prior to the Final Four, Knueppel has posted 105 total assists to 53 turnovers, good for 2.8 per game and a phenomenal near 2-to-1 ratio. Some context before we jump into this section, as I've already kind of alluded to in the scoring section, the Blue Devils have gone without a true point guard this season. They have talented passers and handlers in Cooper Flagg, Sion James, and Tyrese Proctor, but a lack of a real number one has relegated Knueppel to some legitimate lead duties on occasion, which he's taken on head first with that previously mentioned affinity for ball handling. Most simply, Knueppel has more passing juice than your average 2-guard or wing. With high feel for the game and good court vision, he's already mastered the simple stuff, feeling out his teammates' gravity or his own and adapting around it with extra passes, set plays, corner finds, and plenty more. He's got great velocity, as you'll see, tons of zip on the ball, and is a legitimate bullseye, great about nailing the shooting pocket and hitting really small windows. Outside of the easy stuff, he can break out some really absurd dimes too that, again, you wouldn't dream of most shooting guards or wings doing. He's a genuinely great live dribble passer playmaker, a skill not often seen in a player able to shoot 40% from 3. The other aspect of his passing playmaking game is his prowess in the pick and roll, which I believe to be pretty advanced and a potential weapon at the NBA level. He can putter around the screen with his handle and has enough wherewithal to float precise lobs or zip the ball to open shooters or cutters. He's not adaptable to the highest degree, a la Luka Doncic, but is more layered than a simple shoot or lob guy. And granted, weapons like rim runner Kon Knueppel or the potentially generational Cooper Flagg are among the best in college basketball, but I don't necessarily see that as a knock on Knueppel's game, but rather a point towards just how inclusive he can be as a player. I don't think these things are set to be Knueppel's full-time job in the NBA, but certainly a positive wrinkle that adds another layer to his overall connectivity. In terms of Knueppel's unquantifiable feel for the game, I've gone with Scorching as I believe he's one of the highest field players in this class. You can see it in his effortless range scoring, his knack for seeing the ball through the hoop in the paint, a positively out-of-place passing game, or his affinity for hyperactive defense. At times, he can feel like a basketball robot designed to input data and spit out exactly the right play to make. Knueppel, quite frankly, seemed to have no business being the second best prospect on this Duke Blue Devils team, but he's been a legitimate driving force in helping them reach the heights they have this season, picking up offensive slack when Cooper Flagg was sidelined for the ACC tournament, and doing the same in the NCAA tournament when others have had inefficient nights. He's just a walking positive, be it shooting, driving, passing, flashes of defense, even creation. He can affect the game in so many ways, he's positionally fluid, has such an obvious eye for how to play the right way, and I think ultimately this is a big reason why I'm personally so bullish on him figuring things out, continuing to improve in areas he's already good in, while mitigating some of his quote-unquote weaknesses. With Knueppel having such a high floor in so many areas, it begs the question, does he actually have offensive star power? And when I ask that question in regards to guards and wings, I typically tie it to creation ability, which I've graded cool as Kon's swing skill. Creation is the ability to create offense out of thin air, take a possession that has little going for it and turn it into 2 or even 3 points. And while I think Knueppel adds this in moderation, the tape tells me he isn't set to be a full-time creator or lead at the next level just yet, which is perfectly fine for his more connector style archetype. Most simply, Knueppel doesn't have the athleticism or an advanced enough handle to create something out of nothing with great consistency. As I've covered, I think his burst is sneaky, but that can really only get you so far. The athletic limits somewhat speak for themselves. And he doesn't have an arsenal of dribble moves to dip into when good point of attack defense comes knocking. Is he going to be able to slip past bigs or bully smaller guards in moderation? Of course. And ball screens and pick and rolls will help tremendously with this too. But again, he's not a flat-out maestro in these situations and is likely best suited to a more ancillary or backup role in regards to these things. Knueppel has the bones of some creation game, but seems to have a ways to go in truly putting all these things together. The grade. I've given Kon Knueppel a grade of 8.6. If you couldn't tell from the contents of this video, it seems I'm going to land much higher on the consensus with the do-it-all wing, due to his total versatility on offense, and better than expected floor on defense. Knueppel has a nice build, he can shoot, dribble drive, pass, playmake, and he's not a liability on defense in my mind. To be frank, I think anyone relegating him to just a shooter is making a big mistake. He'll be a spot-up weapon, a transition threat, he'll be able to moonlight as a point guard for chunks of games, he'll be a connective passer always, a talented passer when asked to be. Role-wise, I'd expect him to fall somewhere in line with what Austin Reeves is doing for the Lakers or Chris Middleton in his heyday for the Bucks. All in all, this funky combination makes for a player I'd consider in the top 5 of the 2025 NBA draft. Now, that does come with a caveat. If you're looking for tier 1 upside, Knueppel probably isn't your guy. But there's only so many of those prospects, and for teams with established centerpieces in need of an off-ball star with some on-ball funk and a high floor, Kon Knueppel would be at the top of my list. That's it for this one. Let me know what you think of Duke's Kon Knueppel, what you grade him, where you draft him, drop who you want to see in the next heat check, and we'll see you next time.